He's head of campaigns at Taxpayers Alliance. Elliot Keck, good afternoon to you.
Hello, Julia.
Thanks for joining us. This is one of those deep sigh stories, and this is just one of those things where, like, there's a lot of problems in London, our capital city. I don't like to get too London-centric, but, you know, there's a lot of problems. We've got stabbings, we've got goodness knows what's going on. I mean, it's just, you know, crime on the streets. We've been talking about shoplifting throughout the show. But Sadiq Khan, the man who is elected Labour London Mayor, who's actually also Commissioner, Police and Crime Commissioner as well, he's decided to spend £2.1 million of taxpayers' cash on a very, very, very important project. Tell us what that project is.
So, yeah, £2.1 million on essentially a commission to investigate London's statues, plaques and all the other commemorative art installations we have around the capital, and to look at ways to add to that. But as you say, £2.1 million, an extraordinary amount of money. I think 400 art installations have come from it, so that's £5,000 a pop. And at the same time, congestion's getting worse, knife crime's going up, and house building isn't increasing.
Yeah, so the stuff that people actually care about. Now, again, this all goes back to Black Lives Matter and the toppling of statues, and we saw, you know, what happened in Bristol, and, you know, if you've been money's come from slavery, then, oh, your statue must go. The reality is, you know, an awful lot of people we've got statues to around the country, and certainly in London, are people from a, distant past where a lot of bad things happened. A lot of bad things were done by a lot of people at that time. The world was a nasty, brutish place. We've moved on. You'd think we'd celebrate that. But so it's not only in favour of, with this investigation of, like, taking down statues and artwork that commemorates people who are now judged to be bad people, and should be unseen, but also commissioning work that is now considered woke. But again, I'm wondering where the demand is for this.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you what really infuriates me about this. One of the projects has been a number of plaques commemorating major LGBT events in London's history. OK, that's all very well, but we give significant amounts of taxpayer money to the exact sort of groups that should be funding these plaques themselves if they're so important. You know,
I mean, taxpayers fund these organisations to a massive amount. But also, I mean, again, we're not... Again, I'm really, really happy that we have, equal gay rights. That is something I campaign for, and gay marriage and like, but I don't necessarily think that the state should be paying for plaques for celebrating some march or something. I'm not quite sure. Again, I thought that's what we had charities and campaign groups for.
Well, yeah, entirely. And listen, anybody that's, comes from a village, town around the country, may well have some sort of local civic society that, funds and fundraisers for various plaques to commemorate major events in a local town or a local neighbourhood. And, it's entirely appropriate that the council or whoever needs to give permission to those plaques do give permission. And, it's entirely appropriate that, that there are some of these plaques designed and placed on, London's buildings. But the idea that we should have to be paying it from ourselves when we already give significant amounts of taxpayer cash to these charities is for the birds.
It is bizarre. I mean, again, the cash was contributing. It included 5 rainbow plaques of a pride movement, a sound installation to highlight stories from working class women on the Olympic Park in East London, and a walk of fame, stars in the pavement to celebrate migrant workers in Cricklewood. I mean, a lot of people are saying woke waste. I mean, I would certainly say that. But also, it's this weird idea that we need to sort of wipe our history. We know what happened in the past. I don't think there's anyone alive today going, oh, it's a really, really, really good thing that black Africans were taken from their homelands and put aboard horrific ships and used as slaves, treated as cattle. I mean, no one's saying that. So why if you want to have a plaque explaining what this person did, maybe that's useful. But it's quite bizarre trying to sort of rewrite our history. That's the bit I don't understand.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd be far better off focusing on the problems that affect in particular the black community today, in particular knife crime, which is soaring across London, and where black kids are primarily the victims, or certainly disproportionately the victims, and yet Sadiq Khan seems to show absolutely no interest in that. If he wanted to focus on improving the lives of working class Londoners, he'd be focusing on decreasing the amount of congestions there is on the road, so that particularly van workers are able to get around, but he's not interested in those problems, and that's partly because he's caused those problems himself.
Well, indeed, but again, it's just about all this stuff is actually about dividing people rather than uniting people, which is one of the most frustrating things. Elliot Keck, thank you for joining us, ahead of campaigns at Taxpayers Alliance. Just a quick word from Philip Ingram. I think you might have had some trouble hearing some of that, but you know the story. Obviously, the huge amount of taxpayers' money, £2 million plus spent on taking down statues and putting in woke stuff. I mean, again, none of this is needed. No one's asking for this stuff.
Exactly, and a waste of money. And we can't eradicate history. We have
and
to.
We shouldn't.
We shouldn't. We should be reminded of our history so we can build on that and use that as a foundation for where we're going. Yes, put additional statues out in different places instead of, but
I don't mind
as well as,
information
but not
about
instead
people.
of.
Like this person was celebrated at this time, but actually now we take a different view. That's fine.
Exactly.
But you don't. I don't want our history eradicated. You can't see the progress that human beings have made and our society has made if you don't know the past as well.